afternoon. A few months back, I was talking to William Brock, this gentleman to my right. And we were having the conversation. As I tell everybody, I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer. And I'm always fascinated at people's stories and their lives. And he and I were talking, and particularly we were talking about his story, which we will obviously talk about during this interview. And he started telling me about this place that we're in now and some of the people you will meet as we develop this project. And he started telling me about these other guys that he knows, where he comes. This, where we are right now, is a building. It's called New Generations. And I think that's important. The name is very important. And he started telling me, oh, the guys did this, and telling me about the daily activities or weekly or whatever. And I said to myself, I said, you know, there are a group of people, every time I turn on the TV, that nobody ever interviews, nobody ever talks to about their lives, their losses, their victories. I mean, they're pretty much ignored in society, in the media. Most of the time you see black men in the media, it's sports, it's sports, it's sports. Or it's connected to a 48-hour show, or a lot of times a lot of criminality involved. Or it's connected to some of those silly talk shows meant to embarrass people and to show them at their lowest. And when I talked to Mr. Brock about his life story and started hearing about the guys that hang out here, it became apparent to me that it was time. It was time to delve into their lives, their histories, their successes, their failures, their, proud moments, their regrets. And so I called my friend here, Michelle Graves, who we have known each other since we were about 12 years old. And I said, you have a TV show. And how about we do this on TV? Instead of me writing a book or writing an article, how about I want to change the media that I tell stories. And she agreed within a nanosecond. She says, that sounds so great. And so as we start these next two interviews, we're going to interview what I consider the foundation of this project, what I consider the foundation of everything we're trying to communicate to the audience, what I consider the foundation of all the things I've learned from these gentlemen. And I think Michelle feels the same way, that it is important that we tell these stories. And these aren't just everyday stories, these are legacy stories. Because the gentlemen we chose are not young boys trying to find their way. They're not middle-aged men having midlife crises. These are seasoned men who've been through some things, who've learned some things, and who have a lot to share. And with that, I want you to start with me where I started, with Mr. William Brock and his story. So, Mr. William Brock, tell us your story. Give us some of your background.
Well, I'm Cincinnati, born and raised. I've done a little traveling. I've led a rather adventurous type of life, so to say. Attended South Avondale, North Avondale School. When it was totally up there Jewish, when the neighborhood was totally Jewish. Ended up going to Woodward High School, graduated from Withrow, attended some classes at University of Cincinnati, ended up graduating from Wilmington College, it was a bachelor's degree in sociology and psychology. That's pretty much in a nutshell.
Tell us the story about your life and certain twists and turns that it took. After you graduated from high school, what did you do?
Well, I actually started up there when I was in the fourth grade at North Avondale Elementary School. I grew up angry, actually. Okay. There was a lot of young black males was targeted that failed. When you start looking at the dropout rates, it was systematic and on purpose. Okay. So I recognized it. I've had teacher, principal at North Avenue tell me I had no business being there. But anyway, growing up angry, I had to find a way of releasing that anger. So I found a vehicle, and that was bounty hunting. So I needed to find a vehicle that I can take out my frustrations without consequences. So I'd done that for a number of years, but I found out also it has its consequences and was very costly. So, from there, ended up in prison. I can't tell any war stories. I will tell you that I was kicked out of prison. I was doing 39 to 75 years in total. But I found that those were some of the best years of my life. Yeah.
So some of the best years of your life took place in prison. We got to talk about that. We got to talk about how did you find your best years there? What happened there?
Well, my mother told me that your blessings are your blessings, only you can receive them and only you can block them.
Yes.
Don't block your blessings and don't block anyone else's blessings. My father told me to humble myself, submit my will to the Most High, and do something for someone else. That's what I did. And behind those two things, they kicked me out. I start teaching, start educating, okay? I started affecting the recidivism rates. Individuals wasn't coming back through those revolving doors, okay? Because my job was to teach them that they did have power, that they're not who they say that they are. And from there, like I say, coming home from there after 10.5 years, I've known about Mr. Bo Gaither for many, many, many years, but I really had opportunity to spend some time with Mr. Bo Gaither, and that was based upon a friend. His name was Amin. It was Gary Harvey. His name was Amin. Amin is no longer with us, but Amin, before he passed, had told me to come down to the hall, New Generation. Come be with up there, help out Bo Gaither. Good guy. These some good guys down there. So I'm not known to smile a lot. Actually, I wear a scowl. But this is where I come down here and I laugh. I enjoy my life. I enjoy the fellows that be here. They bring something to the table. I think these guys, with their life experience, they bring something to the table. They have things to offer the world. Okay. When I speak about Mr. Bo Gaither, call him Bo. This is an individual that everybody up in this city know him. And he knows them. He knows the generations of families. And they know him.
So when you guys come here, and I think I've asked everybody that question, some of the guys I see, again, I live in Atlanta. I've lived lots of major cities, but a lot of guys that I see go to either the barbershop to feel safe, to have their conversations, to hang out, or a lot of the older guys I see, they might go to a McDonald's first thing in the morning, they're drinking coffee and talking and getting the senior special, and they might be there from 8 until about noon. But you guys come here.
Yes.
Is this a safe space? Is this a welcoming space? Is it a warm space? Is it a brotherhood? It's not like the old club, no girls allowed. Y'all don't have that sign up. But when you come here, what is it? How does it feel?
It's all of that,
okay.
and even more.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for these guys here. I have an awful lot of respect for them and their lives, and just the fact that they're still standing up.
Yes.
I know something about them, and I know that their stories need to be told. These are individuals that people in the neighborhoods, they know these people. They know these individuals. These are individuals that people come down here, they gravitate down here just to sit up there and have a safe place to sometimes just speak, sometimes just to cry.
That's important.
Okay? These are individuals who have had impact on other people's lives, positive inputs. These are very knowledgeable individuals. I know the difference between being smart and being intelligent. I find that Mr. Bo Gaither is one of the smartest guys I know on the planet. Okay?
I definitely agree with that.
Right.
We both agree with that.
So,
yeah.
You know, when I look at new generation, which has a lot to do, from what I understand, it's a family thing. It's a family gathering. You know, there's family connections here. I guess Mr. Gaither can speak more about that than I, but for what I see from the outside, it tells me something about them. Okay? So it humbles me as a person. Okay? Because I know that these are individuals who have helped save individuals' lives. There has been individuals that have come down here that's on the verge of suicide and had to come down here and talk to somebody. That's why new generation is important.
Right. One of the things that you just said, you know, they saved lives. They made a difference. Well, you have too. In your Thinking Errors program that you told me about, that you started in the penitentiary, that you now give to young people about thinking errors. And that's been a consistent theme with several of the men that we've talked to. Their influence, their ability to communicate through generations about, you know, choices that you make. The GOAT influence. When we talk to him, how many kids he's influenced who still come up to him as adult men and say, thank you, you helped me. And so you have that in common as well. All of you do. All of the men we've talked to have had that in common in reaching out to the community.
Well, let me say this about this, okay? And as when I speak to people, I always tell them to pay attention to the history that you have lived. Okay, be aware of the history that you've lived. I'm of age, and some of us, or most of us, are of some type of age. We have lived through a period that we saw the changes. I can sit there and say that, you know, a lot of them, they run their mouths. They talk and don't know anything about what they're talking about. I have issues with that, okay? When I look at the deteriorations of our neighborhoods and how it happened. When I look at how individuals how things that's right, how nowadays it's wrong, and vice versa. Okay, so when I look at different social programs that they have in place, I have found that those programs are doing people more harm than good. I know the difference between institutional psychology, sociology, opposed to the private sector. Okay. And it's based upon where they get their money at. Okay? So the thing is when I look at these programs, when they have groupings and they tell somebody that says something asinine out their mouth that it's okay, I have issue with that because it's not okay. It's not okay. You know, stop telling people these things is all right when it's doing nothing but doing them harm. I have issue with that. I have issue when people come and they say things and they want you to validate the lie they're telling. I have issue with that.
Yes.
We have to be strong enough to say, no, it's not what you do, it's how you do what you do. So the thing is even in our communication, it's important that it's like, hey, it might not be polite, but the truth is not polite, and it's not going to save you, and that ill think is not going to save you from the negative consequences. So a lot of times when people say things, you cannot unhear, you cannot unspeak. Right. So the thing is it's out there in the universe.
One of the things that you and I talked about was prices paid for your choices, and sometimes you're doing things and you're not thinking about the prices. That, you know, everything has a cost. Like I said, the cost of the lesson. You get a lesson, you do something, there's some cost involved. And I'm not talking about money cost. I'm talking about losses of whatever.
Well, I know that, as an example, in prison, to come home, they always want you to have remorse for your victims. Okay. I didn't have any remorse for my victims, because my victims was in the gang.
Okay.
And every occupation has its occupational hazard. Point blank that. The remorse that I had was for my family.
Good point.
That's because the decisions that I made, the decisions that I made to live my life a certain way, which placed the burdens upon my family. My family.
Yes.
When I relinquished my responsibility as a son, a brother, as a father, making these bad decisions, I understand the sins of the father. I've watched, because of my decisions to live my life as I chose to, I've watched my kids calling somebody else daddy.
Yeah.
I've watched my belongings being driven and taken control of from others. My father died while I was in prison. Wasn't able to sit there and be there. Big loss, big loss. There's always constant losses, constant losses, constant losses. But there's also constant lessons. I don't care how dark a situation may seem, seek the light. There's always light in it if you seek it.
Yes.
So when I come down here, I see light.
Yes.
I see laughter. I see men getting together, talking crap, but this is what's needed to help them keep on living every day and standing up every day. I'm very passionate about that.
One of the things that we have in balancing the stories that we're telling is that we also want to look at your other side, some of the other things that you do, some of your other passions. And I know when you and I were talking, you were telling me how when you were away and incarcerated that you started painting. You already had the talent, but it hadn't been brought out because your time and energies were directed in other things. And so when you said, you know, some of the best years were there, and you discovered your ability to create these incredible art pieces, I want you to talk about that, and then we're going to show some of your work as well and share it.
My father told me when I got locked up that you can make a life for yourself anywhere. Okay?
That's powerful.
It didn't make no sense for me to be locked inside of a cell. Okay, even though that was the decision I made, but it still didn't make any sense to me. So I had to do certain things to make sure I wasn't constantly locked up. So I done certain things. I stayed busy educating myself, educating others. So it just gave me an opportunity to sit there and started the art league, okay, at Lebanon. We had some art shows, able to sell some of their work, because people would come from the outside, things like that. We did that type of thing. Also, the Thinking Era program was originally started by the Quakers, and they was allowed to come into the penitentiary, and they had some type of Friends program, and it also involved a Thinking Eras program. That's where I took that Thinking Eras program and developed it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and since used it, have taught it different places, things like that. But I do find, as when it comes down to me being involved in different programs, I have certain oppositions to it, simply because I know with that type of thing you need a focused audience. You have no focus. I don't care what kind of group you have, you're not going to have a focused audience, because if there's issues, once they get out of your presence, they go back to their same distracted life. Okay? So they don't retain certain things. So mostly it's going to be a waste of your time and breath. You need a focused audience. How do you get a focused audience? There's different ways of doing that.
One of the things we talked about with some of the other gentlemen was, like I said, nowadays the big word is, you know, I'm an influencer. But many of you guys have been influencers, and even though you weren't called that in all your lives, you've influenced people, good or bad. But everybody's an influencer. Everybody
That's
can
right.
be an
That's
influencer.
right.
But it's what you choose to do with the influence that you have and who you choose to do it with.
Exactly.
And in this day and time where the young people have so many distractions, so many other choices, and what I'm hearing you say is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that when you go out to some of the young men and you're talking to them, keeping their attention, and then unlike the GOAT who, 20, 30, 40 years later, people are still coming up to him, could you possibly see that happening, with the younger people now?
Not in that way.
Okay.
Because I think that, first of all, I believe that, first of all, you have to get somebody's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? People talk about our youth. I don't talk about our youth. I talk about the parents, the grandparents, and the great-grandparents, because they're the ones who started the mess. See, it was in the late 60s when females said, I'm not going to raise my kids the way mama and daddy raised us. Guys was busy distracted with the heroin that was poured into our communities, with the money. It was usually heroin for a reason. Heroin is physically addictive. Cocaine, psychological. They needed something in the community that will break the community down as it did. Back then, in those days, it was nothing for somebody to sit there and like, hey, just drop an overdose person in front of the hospital or find them in a garbage can or in a dumpster, things of this nature. It was not an unusual thing.
Yes.
Okay? Men lost focus. We lost focus because of our distractions. Money. We lost focus. When we were coming up, there was a thing that was called pulling one's coattail. They would even tell you the right way even to do wrong.
Yes.
There was responsibilities that was there in the even in the communications.
Okay.
That's been since lost because nowadays you got a bunch of dummies talking to dummies.
Interesting. One term you used when we were talking, you said there are 3 generations of goofiness.
Yes, there is. It's 3, almost 4 generations of goofiness, and as I just spoke about,
Yes.
that's what I call it, of how we got here, and how we got here. It's not no mystery.
Do you see any way out? How we get out of this? How we bring our kids, our grandkids, our future generation back into some semblance? And how we bring, really beyond the kids, how we bring, as you said, the parents, the parenting aspect of it.
Well, it's very simple. It's very simple. Discipline. If you don't have no discipline in your home, okay, you don't even know what's going on inside your home most of the time. Everybody got these cell phones. So you got all these things on the outside influencing the inside of your home. And you have no control over it. You don't even know what's going on inside your home. Parents are not shaking their homes down. If you want up there, stop some of this stuff, find some of these guns and all this, shake your homes down.
Yeah.
Stop up there telling these kids that it's okay. That they have, no, they didn't buy the house.
Right.
They ain't paying for nothing.
Yeah.
Parents need to start being parents. Stop saying okay when it's not okay. And then you want to sit up here and see your kids over in jail, dead, all of this kind of crap, because you made a decision to say okay. When they closed down the truant offices, that's when they started 241 kids. Prior to that, you just see kids roaming the streets during school hours. What happened? Why did that happen? It was all part of the breakdown of the communities. So therefore, here we are today. The lack of disciplines.
So let's look at some of your artwork and just take a couple of the pieces and tell us what your influence was, or what, because your pictures are very colorful. You said you didn't do colors, you do them extremely well.
When it comes down to my artwork, I can tell through my artwork what period of time by the colors that I use in my artwork. If it was a dark period in my life or not. I can also tell when things have lightened up. I can see it in the colors that I utilize. I know what colors do for you. If we start looking around us, we'll start seeing more grays in our buildings, in our color palettes, in our homes. There's a reason why. It makes you sit. Subdued colors. When you wear red, orange, vibrant colors, you're going to feel a little more peppy in your step, you know, stuff like that. But that's good.
It is great. So, what do you want your legacy to be, Mr. Brock? How do you see your legacy?
Well, that's up for interpretation from individuals who see me, who know anything about me. Been a good guy, bad guy, you know, just a human being, you know.
Right.
Like I say, been a lot of things. But I'm also referred to as I'm a responsible bachelor. I'm a responsible bachelor. And I live on that every day, just being responsible.
Okay.
Being a responsible man.